Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast on a Tuesday. USC had a practice this morning. We're going to talk about that, what happened up in Corvallis over the weekend when they took down the Oregon State Beaver 17-14. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, joined alongside Chris Trevino. We got a lot to get to today on the show, and thanks for joining us. We are simulcasting this live on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/InsideTroy. So if you're watching this on a Tuesday afternoon post USC practice, we thank you for joining us. And otherwise, if you're listening any of the podcasting platforms or watching the replay on YouTube, we appreciate that as well. If you have any questions or comments for the show, podcast@uscfootball.com is the email address, or you can give us a call or shoot us a text. The number's the same, 424-254-9141. We got a couple voicemails. We got a couple text messages for you. I think we got one voicemail that's too long. Try to keep them about a minute or so. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to play them. If you have the Apple Podcasting app, please follow the show, Peristyle Podcast, and leave us a 5-star rating and review. We appreciate that. I think we have over 1,000 reviews right now, or ratings right now. So thank you for that. It helps grow the show. But wherever you're listening, and Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, any of those podcasting apps, thank you for doing that. And if there's a way to leave a rating or subscribe, we would appreciate you doing that as well. So let's bring in Chris Trevino, my partner in crime. It's been, we're kind of, I guess we're a third of the way through the season. It becomes kind of a grind right now, Chris, don't you think?
Yeah, it's like fall camp or something, training camp. You hit that wall. You just got to get through the next third, and then you're like, we're in the back half. Let's just close out strong. So we're hitting that wall a little bit. Got the bye week coming up in 3 weeks, but things are happening, and at least it's a undefeated team that we're covering. And my follow-up question is, what's too long of a voicemail?
I don't want it to be more than a minute,
No, but what was the one that you got?
Oh, it was like 2.5 minutes or something. So Google Voicemail shuts you off at 3. So we've had those shut off.
Okay.
But, if it's like a minute and a half, I'll usually go. But like it's more than that. You're like, okay, come on. So you got to, and it's okay. If it's too long, you can call back and leave another voicemail. No electrons will be wasted. It's fine. No problem. You can do that. But yeah, try to keep them short. We'll get to that. Want to thank our sponsor before we jump into everything, Trader Joe's. It's tailgating season. I'm always making little trips over to Trader Joe's. We got lots of cool snacks here in the office, thanks to Trader Joe's. But I was looking on TraderJoe's.com, and I saw this dessert that you're going to have to check out. Chewy salted caramel cookies. So it's Trader Joe's caramel sea salt baking chips, which they describe as sweet, buttery, lightly salted morsels of caramel, which, yum. Wait, by the way, Chris, are you a caramel guy or a caramel guy?
Caramel.
Okay.
I don't like either.
You're not a fan?
No.
Okay.
I'm not a caramel guy.
Well, anyway, these baking chips, I can't believe I haven't seen them before. They look awesome. And I love caramel. I usually say caramel, but I know some people say caramel. But these cookies look...
Each their own.
Yes, they look great. Another sweet that I like that you don't like. But go check it out over at Trader Joe's. And like I said, when you go to TraderJoe's.com, so many different recipe ideas, things like that. I'm visual when it comes to that stuff, so I saw those cookies and I'm like, okay, I got to check those out. And I didn't know about those chips before, so I will try those. We could have another bake-off if you want. I think that's a one-time thing. That was good.
That was fun. One-time thing. We'll do it again next off-season, hopefully not during the season. But since October is next month and our next show will be in October, all your Trader Joe's reads have to be about candy.
There will be a lot of holidays, a lot of Halloween stuff and everything coming on. All right, so we got an exciting show. We got a lot of questions, so it's probably more mailbaggy, just because we got so many questions and stuff coming in. We did a show with Harvey Hyde yesterday. If you want to check that out on peristylepodcast.com. Chris will be doing a show with Gerard Martinez a little bit later on this week, the 2-star Recruits Composite Podcast. Check that out if you like the recruiting stuff. It was a 3-hour show last week, so boom.
Made the mark, hit the mark, and now I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, but great stuff there. And then we will have a live tunnel vision show with Chris and I will not be on it, but it'll be a show just kind of like this, but on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter with Jack Smith, our intern, who's been doing a great job. RJ Abadia will be in studio with Jack, and then Shotgun Spratling from afar. So we don't get Shotgun in town this weekend, right? We got ASU.
Not the next 2 weekends.
Yeah, so 2 home games coming up. ASU 7:30 p.m. kickoff on ESPN, I believe, and then the following weekend
4:30
on prime time on the big Fox, USC Washington State. So one late game, and I think we got our heat wave back, so maybe the late game will be better. And then 4:30 game the following weekend. But so make sure you check out the preview show. We'll have all that stuff coming up. Okay, we're going to get to some of the kind of newsy stuff at the top. The polls came out, as you may have known. Maybe, I don't know, are you seeing less Oklahoma people in your mentions now? But Oklahoma ended up losing to Kansas State. Adrian Martinez, the former Nebraska quarterback.
Nebraska.
So USC basically just moved up a spot to number 6 in both polls after surviving a trip to Corvallis, 17-14 up there. So moving up the polls a little bit. I don't think the polls matter at all, but just, kind of let you know what's going on. And I thought we can talk about the game a little bit. And I know we got questions that'll get into the game. Chris and I were both up there, and then we'll kind of get, if there's any updates from practice this morning. I was not at practice this morning, full disclosure. Chris was down there with our team. My family flew in, so I was picking them up from the airport. So that's nice. I get to see the fam, but I didn't get to go to practice. So Chris had to hold down the fort with our guys. But I don't know, Chris. Takeaways. We talked about some different shows already.
Don't throw anything vague at me. I've already done a roadcast. I've already done tunnel vision. I've already done instant. If you want to talk about Oregon State, you ask me something specific, right, Abraham?
Okay, Chris Trevino.
I don't do vagueness. It's Tuesday.
I was listening to the Cover 3 podcast. That's part of our network. That's part of our 24/7 Sports Network.
Plug it.
Love those guys over there. Chip, Danny Cannell, all those guys. Anyway, Bud. So I think it was Bud that brought this up, that, the big talking point. Now, USC's defense stepped up big time. Only 14 points to Oregon State. And that last touchdown was a very short field, 22 yards. So, I mean, and Alex Grinch was kind of, to be honest, he was kind of pissed about giving up that touchdown, even though basically Oregon State took over in field goal range already.
He doesn't care if they start at the 1, Ryan.
He doesn't want them
to score.
Exactly, which is good. But 4 more turnovers, 4 more interceptions, 4 different players involved in those interceptions, which is interesting. 14 turnovers leads the nation.
Tied.
Is it tied?
Tied with another school. I believe it's Central Michigan, something like that. Something weird like that.
Turnover margin, I believe, is 9. I mean, the 14, but the next closest is like 9. No one's really close on turnover margin. And obviously USC is the only team in the country that hasn't turned the ball over. But one of the stats that Bud pointed out was, did you know that a full 1/3 of the drives that USC's defense have faced have resulted in a turnover? So that would mean it would be 42 total drives they've faced this season, and 14 of them, or is that right? Did I get the numbers right? But 1/3 of the drives that they've faced, according to Bud on the Cover 3, have resulted in turnovers. A lot of talk is this sustainable? All of that. What I want to get your thoughts on that, Chris.
First of all, that's an insane stat to throw at somebody.
You wanted specifics?
Yeah. Thank you.
Boom.
Thank you. And that's an insane little stat breakdown. 1/3 of the drives they face ends in a turnover. That's just insane and just speaks to the turnaround that this defense is going through. But also, it is absolutely not sustainable. There is regression coming. But while it's happening now, just enjoy it. And these guys are doing a lot of the things that you need to do to kind of get those 50-50 little things that get you the turnover. So they should be rewarded and praised for that effort they put in, whether it's, tipping the ball, hustling to get to that, like Max Williams diving for that play, similar to his one against Stanford, just kind of making the extra little effort to run and get it. Things like that are what gives you those turnovers. That's what things play in your favor in the turnover game, which there is a lot of it is luck. It's a unique stat in that a lot of it goes down to just a little bit of luck and fluke things and weird things happening, hitting the ball a certain way, a guy not carrying it the right way. Just a little things go into a turnover, and sometimes you need luck. And regression will come for this turnover heavy team. But right now, they're just rolling. And, turnovers are still going to happen for this team. Maybe not 4 per game like some of these games have yielded. But for right now, the effort's there, the strain is there, and they deserve all these turnovers that they're getting because of the way they're playing. I talked to Raylan Goforth about this. He said, when I watched the tape, we were just playing with so much fire. And that's what you need to come up with those kind of plays. So they deserve the praise that they're getting. Mathematically, we're going to see that go back down a little bit, whatever you want to call it. But for right now, just playing out of their minds on defense with turnovers.
100%. Yeah, that's I don't know about sustainable. I would say 3 out of 4 games you got 4 turnovers, but like you said, they're doing the things. You're setting yourself up for success by doing the right things that turnovers can happen. Turnovers don't always happen, but if you're not doing the right things, that's complete luck. You're just hoping that the other team coughs up the ball. You're doing like what Mekhi Blackman did. Let me put that picture up of him. He was pretty excited. Running down that ball and looking like a receiver and stuff. Like, that's a great play. But the other stuff is when you're getting, pressure on the quarterback and, they're getting the ball out quicker, or you're tipping a pass or whatever it is. Yeah, I think something like that is you're doing things that don't always result in a turnover, but it's like
you keep doing that, good things will happen.
Yeah, like it's like a garden, right? Like if you're planting, is this kind of food analogy adjacent?
Yeah, if you're talking about vegetables, I guess.
Yeah, so we're like planting a vegetable garden, and you could throw like a bag of seeds on dirt outside, and maybe a squirrel comes by and like chews on the packet, and it rains the next day, and like you actually get some cucumbers or something growing. Or like you till the soil and you plant the seeds and you water it every day and you make sure it's got enough sun. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get cucumbers, but you're giving yourself a damn better shot of having cucumbers that way than throwing the seeds out the window and hoping something good happens. So they're not always going to get the cucumbers, right? They're just not. But they're doing the right things to facilitate cucumbers coming. And they're coming. They have bushels of freaking cucumbers, which is great, which is the food, turnovers, obviously.
Blue ribbon worthy cucumbers.
Yes. Sometimes it might be dry out or whatever, like they're,
A heat wave
like we get here in LA, and you might have done everything right and you're still not getting cucumbers, and that's fine. But I think what you have to give props to the defense for is that they've done the right things to let these turnovers grow, and they're growing. And whatever you want to say about the offense, 3 really good games, or 2 really good ones and 1 pretty good and 1 kind of stinker, they haven't done much as far as turnovers go. Like, I haven't seen a lot of Caleb Williams passes where you're like, ooh, like that could have been picked. There's not a lot of that. There've been a couple balls on the ground. I mean, there's been way more plays where, ooh, that could be a sack fumble and Caleb Williams gets away from what's going on. So yeah, that you can't expect to have 3.25 turnovers a game or whatever they're doing right now, something kind of crazy like that. But you're doing the right things that if you're making your own luck by planting everything and, taking care of this to the point where it's pretty good chance you're going to get some cucumbers.
Cucumbers are the new turnovers.
Yeah. Maybe that would be funny. Like if they start throwing cucumbers around the sidelines every time there's a turnover.
It's not going to take off.
You don't think it'll take off?
I don't think it'll take off. They won't have a cucumber chain. They're not going to do any of that.
Cucumbers. No, so they could play the soundbite in the locker room. They're like, we want cucumbers. One of the student managers who's listening to the show, because we know you are, go in there, take some cucumbers in, tell them about it. Maybe it'll catch on, There's a turnovers part of it, so we'll see. But I've been encouraged with the way the defensive performances have been. I felt Stanford was a weird one because they brought out
slow mesh.
Yeah, the slow mesh kind of thing. Hayner and Fresno State. They had a lot of chunk plays. I feel like this was one where, they just didn't see the same kind of success rate for Oregon State. And I don't know where you fall on this, Chris, but sometimes if an offense is going, someone's offense is going, it sort of like sparks the opposing offense, and it's like it makes it tougher on the opposing. I think it makes it harder on the opposing defense. If it's going to gate where if you're only scoring 14 points and it's sort of like back and forth punting, your mentality is different than if like, oh, we got to score every time. It feels like if there's a high scoring game, like defense don't look as good. But for whatever reason, if it's playing off like a low scoring game, it's like easier for the defenses. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Because I see what you're saying. Because you're just kind of building confidence as you go as a defense. Like, oh, got a big stop. Oh, we just got another stop. Oh, we got a turnover. At that point, your defense is just riding a good chunk of momentum. Now, Oregon State did have that touchdown early to take the lead. USC trailed for the first time, but that didn't phase the defense at all. They really shook that off pretty well and held it down going into that crazy fourth quarter and did everything they needed to do. And as I believe I mentioned this on the CarCast or the Roadcast, but no panic at all with the defense. No sense of like slumping body language, no yelling, no fighting at anybody. Everyone seemed to be on the same page. Everyone seemed to be like, we got this. We're okay. We can handle these guys.
Yeah.
And every time they came back, it was like good-ish. This is what we do. This is what we do. And they just kept rolling. Every stop that they got, every big play that they got just kept building and building and building. And again, shook off things like that short field we talked about with Alex Grinch. Alex Grinch wanted them to hold them. They didn't hold them, but they didn't seem phased, and they came out there again, got the big Mekhi Blackman pick, and then also the game sealer. So that defense got punched in the mouth a little bit, but they punched back, and they punched back hard. So
yeah,
excellent mental fortitude and excellent togetherness in a hostile environment, and they really bonded through that, all sides of the ball as a team. But defense really showed a lot, and I just want to see what they do next week.
Yeah,
I want to see what they do this week
against a bad ASU team, which we'll talk about in a minute. Just to let people know, unfortunately, for some reason, the comments aren't working. So if you're putting comments in there, I can't put them up on the screen. That's one of my favorite parts of doing these. So I'm sorry that that's not working right now, but I'll be able to look at your comments at the end. So I'll try to pick out some questions. It's just a lot harder when there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the chat. But thanks everyone that's watching live. It's always cool to get people in the middle of the day coming in and watching what we're doing live. Two things on the offensive side, Chris.
Right.
Caleb Williams, 20 incompletions, not good. But how much did he save this team by not getting sacked as many times as he could have and escaping, keeping plays alive, picking up the fourth down, those kind of stuff. And then the other one is my guy, Travis Dye. We got to talk about Travis a little bit. Third straight 100-yard game. So kind of get your thoughts on those offensive aspects.
Caleb, that game on Saturday kind of shows why having a mobile quarterback is so valuable. Guys that can make things happen when things are breaking down or to keep things alive. And there were, I want to say maybe 4 plays where it looked like he was dead to rights with the pass rush coming on, and then all of a sudden just did a little spin move. Just so calm. It looked like when he was spinning out of those things and just kept the play alive, whether, I don't know how many of those yielded completion or just getting the ball out. But yeah, he saved the offense from getting behind the sticks multiple times with that athleticism to get out. And, obviously he picked up the big first down with his legs with the help of Brett Nealon. But, that was a play where he saw everything, didn't have the play through the air. And I'm not sure if it was the design run. Might have to ask him about that. But took off and made things happen, got it close, and then offensive line finished it off. The legs his arm wasn't, on. The passing game was not on, so had to find other ways to contribute and move and make plays and do these little things. And when you have a dual threat, it's so much easier to facilitate more and save the offense a little bit when they're struggling. And we know it wasn't perfect, but he really came through in the end with that touchdown pass to Jordan Addison at the end. Lincoln Riley said today, Caleb did not have his best stuff. It was like a pitcher coming out and just wasn't their day. And that happens. But at the end there, he was there when they needed him the most. And talking about that touchdown pass, he said, there's not 5 guys in college football who can make that throw. And to do it in that moment, that's why Caleb is a special player. So when the moment was there, when the moment was his to take, he delivered. And I think that's what you saw on Saturday. You want to see a bounce back performance this weekend. If everything goes right for USC fans and the Trojans, Caleb is going to have a very short game, probably come out at halftime and get those young guys some backups. But, you want to see this team get refocused and back on track offensively against the Sun Devils. But, yeah, the legs were critical to getting something out of him to kind of keep the flow going or help the offense just a little bit, even though it wasn't perfect.
Yeah, and then what about Travis Dye? Starts the game with that 26-yard run. Not much more excitement for the offense for a while till the fourth quarter, but that was a good start,
I was just cutting the film from the field level highlights, and those will be up soon, but I was cutting it, and there were so many major Travis Dye runs, because there wasn't a lot of offensive highlights for this video. It was mainly defense, but the big plays are coming from Travis Dye with some really tough runs where there were some big holes for him to run through. So credit to the offensive line for that. Travis Dye, not the biggest guy. I keep saying this, not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, not the most athletic guy, but he's going to pick up yards and he's going to find a way to get yards. And RJ asked about it today, about how Travis was just a stabilizing force for that offense that was so herky-jerky, unsure, out of sync. And to have a guy who could pick up yards when they absolutely needed it in this game, and to come up with that fourth quarter touchdown was huge. And, yeah, he was absolutely the stabilizer for this team. I think that was a good way to put it.
Yeah, he was. And to be the kind of leader that he's been, we talk about this in Tunnel Vision, and, when Eric Gentry applauds, when we asked the question about his third straight 100-yard game, he definitely has the respect of his teammates, and USC needed every inch that he ran for, 132 yards or whatever it was, on Saturday. So, all right. Well, we've talked a lot about the Oregon State game. I know we got questions that'll kind of get into it a little bit more. We're going to do a preview later in the week, like I said, on Tunnel Vision on Thursday night. So check that one out. It'll be on podcast form and also here on our YouTube channel if you're watching this live or watching it on replay. And I think one of the things you could say about Arizona State, and it's a role reversal, right? Last year, and this has happened to USC the last 3 times, USC's had a lot of interim head coaches. They've been through that. Sometimes it works out great. You got the Ed Orgeron, everyone's rallying around him. And, now USC's got a stable position as far as head coach goes. You get Lincoln Riley, and they're building the program up. Well, when you get an interim, it's usually the program's breaking down. And Arizona State won 8 games last year, USC's next opponent. And I predicted that they were going to go 4-8 or 3-9. I got to go back and look. But when I do my Podcast of Champions show, a little plug there. I thought Arizona State was going to fall off a cliff. I thought they did way better than I thought they would last year. But they had suspended a few, junior coaches. Now more than half the staff is gone. A whole bunch of guys left the transfer portal. We already mentioned Eric Gentry, one of the young, dynamic defensive players in the Pac-12, leaves ASU to come to USC. A lot of guys left. I think they were down to like 5 scholarship wide receivers and like 5 scholarship linebackers in fall camp. I saw this coming from a mile away. This was going to just die. This was a program that was going to drop off, and their over/under for wins was 6.5, and I bet the under for sure, and that's going to be a good bet. They lose. What was the game they lost? Eastern Michigan, and Herm finally gets fired. It's just, and the dysfunction is similar to USC, where it goes all the way to the president. Michael Crow, unfortunately for ASU fans, their president's still there. Ray Anderson, the athletic director, who was a former agent that was, Herm was his client, and that's the only reason they hired him. They plucked him out of TV, hadn't coached in over 10 years, hadn't coached in college. Big mess. And you still have the AD, you still have the president. So there's more mess to clean up there. But on the football side, this is a 1-3 football team. They won their first game, was at NIU. And then this is a program in dire straits. And I say all that preamble, not because I knew that this was going to be a crap team, but it was. They are a bad team. And USC fixed some things on the defensive side of the ball, or got better on the defensive side of the ball. Things maybe broke on the offensive side of the ball. Is it fair to qualify this game as like a, quote, get-right game, where maybe, you got some guys coming back from injury, things weren't looking as smooth. You get a home game against ASU at night. Should be, it's college football, so anything can happen, but should be easy peasy, should be able to cruise. Is this a get-right game for you, Chris, for USC ASU?
I believe so, and I even referenced it as such on Instant Analysis this morning.
Okay.
Where you're coming off a bad offensive performance, you weren't quite focused, and you need to refocus, you need to get things back on track. What's better than having a very wounded, a very beat up, a very spiraling program come into your house at the Coliseum in a night game? Fans are going to turn up for this one, show up, I believe, and should be a good environment. And like I said, just a program in a spiral, and that's where you kind of run it up and get everyone back on the same page. Because as I mentioned, you have pretty big game, Washington State in 2 weeks, and then the big Utah matchup. So this is a game where you need to get that confidence back. You need to realign things with this offense, get Caleb Williams some touchdowns, get some passes going, get some deep shots going. They haven't really connected on a deep pass in a while, so they need to reestablish those big plays down the field. Just flush that game, get right here, get right with ASU, and get some backup, some playing time in that second half.
Yeah, I think the backup playing time thing is legit. Like, that's something that we saw early on, and you're not seeing much of that now. So I think it'd be good to see some Miller Moss out there and stuff. And I think you got a good opportunity to do that against ASU. Why don't we take a quick break, and we'll come back and just dive into all these questions. Back in a minute. All right, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, that wasn't very long of a break. But that's just the way we do things here. So, all right, we want to get into some questions. And this first one, let's go with a voicemail, Chris, because, some people want to, I don't know, they want to hear something different because the defense was much maligned. There was a lot of criticism. There shouldn't be as much criticism.
Are you setting up this voicemail?
I'm setting it up.
Oh, okay.
We don't want to see as much criticism after what the effort was for Oregon State. And I agree with the caller, but here, I'll play it for you.
First we beat Rice. No, they're not good. Wait till we go to Stanford. We beat Stanford. No. Wait till you play Fresno State. And then it's no. Wait till they go to Oregon State. My question is, Ryan, when are we finally going to give credit to Alex Grinch and the defensive squad? No, they're not perfect, but I'm so tired. Just got done listening to Harvey Hyde again say the defense is horrible. I mean, we keep moving the goalposts. We know we're not going to win a national championship this year, but the kids are playing unbelievably, and it's time to start giving some credit where credit is due. Thomas from Malibu. Fight on.
Yeah, Ryan. He's got a bone to pick with you.
I don't think it was with me.
Coach Hyde.
Coach Hyde. Coach Hyde was a little more critical of the defense than I thought it would be. But no, I get it. I think, we talk to Alex Grinch all the time. I was in his scrum asking him questions after the Oregon State game. I think all of us appreciate his answers, good or bad, when the team is doing well, when the defense is doing well, when it's not doing well. He gives articulate answers. He can talk quite a bit when he does answer questions, so you don't get as many questions in. But he says some interesting things that'll stick with you, like the sticking point. Like Lincoln Riley brought up after the Stanford game, that goal line stand at the end, and Alex Grinch agreed. But Alex Grinch talking about giving up that touchdown on the short field as something that was something that bothered him. That kind of tells you, like, that's you've only given up 7 points all day, and the opposing offense gets the ball at your 22. Like, it's kind of understandable if you have some points, But no, I feel like Chris and I both have given props to the defense, and even with the Stanford game, talking about. I don't know. That it didn't seem like anyone else was harping on they pulled out a whole brand new offense, even though they played in week 1, didn't show this offense, and then showed it in week 2. To me, I said they were pulling out all the stops there. So I was giving the defense more of a benefit of the doubt, even after the Stanford game. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, Chris?
What's the question?
I don't know if there's a question. It's just more about why aren't you giving the defense props, Chris?
I was giving the defense plenty of props.
Yeah.
I think Oregon State is a good program, a good team this year. And that was an offense that could put up points. They're not as formidable on the ground as they were last season, but still a really good O-line. They're still going to be physical. Nolan, going in was looking like a really good quarterback, made a lot of mistakes, but they took advantage of that and, forced him into mistakes as well. So I give them a lot of credit for that Oregon State win and sort of rising to the task of not having an offense that's going to put up 40 points on this night and saying, "Hey, yeah, we'll pick up the slack. We'll carry this into the fourth quarter so you guys can get your stuff right." And they did, and that was because the formula has been for USC: get up super early, score a lot, then let that defense kind of pin their ears back and get takeaways and just just open the gap where takeaway possessions where it becomes hard to catch USC's offense. But had to go a different way, had to be a knife fight, drag it out fight, and they rose to the challenge. So I give them a lot of props for doing that, especially on a road game, that environment, night, Oregon State coming for everything, trying to knock off a top 10 team. So I give them plenty of props for this weekend.
We had a voicemail from Eddie from Orange. It was 2 minutes long.
Was it all about Solo?
He said every quarterback that played USC, so this is more about the defense, played their worst game. So I guess Tanner McKee, he would talk about that. Hainer ended up getting hurt. So he's saying that, and that was definitely Chance Nolan's worst game, I think. He feels it's the best win in 10 years because it was a gritty win. Compared it to being a Mexican boxer who takes punches, and then throws that knockout blow. I couldn't play it, Eddie, because it was too long. But thoughts on that? I didn't really realize, this was probably whoever the quarterbacks USC played. It was probably their worst game when they played USC.
Doesn't that kind of point to USC's defense is the reason why they're playing their worst game?
Right. I think so. I think he's trying to get. Wait, was the first voicemail we played, was that Eddie from Orange too?
No, that was Thomas from Malibu.
Perfect. Okay.
I got you.
Thanks.
As a Mexican myself, yeah, I think that's a good analogy because I made the reference to this team getting into a phone booth fight with Oregon State, and they had to be scrappy. They had to be on point. They had to take a lot of blows, but they dished more blows in the end and were able to walk out the victor. So the defense grew up a lot and learned to take a lot more punches, take on a lot more damage, and dish it out twofold. And I think that's a sign of a really good defense. it's the sign of a growing defense.
Yes.
And again, I want to see what they do this coming week. I want to see how they build off that.
I do too. I'm very curious about this one. We got a text message from DC Trojan. He had 2 questions. One, was Caleb Williams' problem Saturday due to Oregon State's scheme and game plan or his own struggles? And then 2, can Oregon State's game plan be replicated by others? We heard someone wrote into the Harvey Hyde show, Chris, that talked about this looks similar to what Baylor did. I think this is more of a mix. Like, I felt like Oregon State was dropping a couple safeties deep a lot, but they were bringing different blitzing and stuff too. And I felt like it wasn't anything that was so crazy that you couldn't have beat the scheme. But I think some of that underneath stuff was where you needed to go. And Caleb just didn't look super comfortable, right? Like,
definitely wasn't comfortable.
No.
Definitely wasn't taking what they were necessarily giving him at times. And he was just sort of looking for that big play, which is kind of like the quicksand analogy where you don't make the play, and then you keep trying to make the play, keep pressing, which can be a really big issue as the quarterback. And Lincoln kind of said he didn't have it that day. He didn't have his best stuff until that very end, that end drive, that end throw. But it's like that. And Brett Nealon did say that the defense front, they did throw some new stuff at them that they didn't see. So there was some stuff that maybe they weren't used to that just kind of compounded the already clear issue of them being off on Saturday. So I think it was a mixture of a lot of things that kind of went into not being as finely tuned as USC fans have come to be accustomed to.
I would agree with you there. We have Sergeant Strong wrote in. He says, man, oh man, that game was sloppy. And it showed a lot of holes in the USC offense. Caleb didn't look comfortable at all. Things we really need to tighten up before we become a serious national title caliber team again. But I must say, with all the scrutiny the defense has been having all season, they sure stepped up in this game. For them to hold a very solid Oregon State team to only 14 points was amazing to me. A round of applause for Alex Grinch in that defense. They let some big plays go, but held them when it mattered most. That was a true example of fight on. Thank you guys for opening up a platform for all of us USC fans to vent, to get a solid dialogue about the team we love. Fight on, Sergeant Strong. Don't think there's a question in there either.
Just a comment. Just wanted to say kind of what we've been saying, how defense has gotten a lot of scrutiny, but took a big step forward on Saturday.
And I think one of the points he makes is about being a national championship caliber team. I don't think this is a national championship caliber team. I don't think this is a flawed team. All college teams are flawed in some way. This is a year one rebuild that was accelerated greatly because of the transfer portal, because of the caliber of coach that was hired and the caliber of staff he brought together. I think this could be a playoff team still. Now, if they play the way they did Saturday, no. But the path to the playoff is not the same path to winning a national championship. The path to the playoff is sneaking in at number 4. I think USC can do that. It's not even like sneak in. Like they'll be, if they keep winning, they will be the number 4 team. They could be higher than that if like Ohio State loses. They're not going to be better than Alabama is. They're not going to be better than Georgia is. And they're probably not going to be better than Ohio State is, even if one of those teams lose a game somewhere. But I feel like they can play good enough that they can win. They could be the best team on the West Coast. And, we got some teams that are looking good. You got 4 Pac-12 teams in the top 15 of the AP poll. That's pretty good. Washington looks legit. Like the offense, Michael Penix from Indiana, who was with Caleb DeBoer when he was the OC there. Like that's working. That's similar to what Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley have, right? You have Michael Penix. Now this was a few years ago, but you're reuniting coaches and players on a new team, a quarterback and a head coach on a new team. So I feel like this is a team, though, if they get it together and they start scoring points like they were doing before, no reason they couldn't go like 11-1, win the Pac-12 championship, and go into the playoff. But I don't think they're a national championship caliber team, and some people are putting them to that standard already, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's where you want to go, but I don't think that's somewhere you're going in year one.
Right, and we knew they didn't have all the pieces for that.
Yeah.
But if you keep performing like that, you'll attract the pieces.
It's an attraction. You want to bring in they were gangbusters recruiting, if you remember, Chris. Like You guys talk about this a lot, right? Boom. And then you kind of hit a wall. It was to the point where like the preseason, higher hype, all that stuff, you can only get so much. Like there was only so much.
Recruiting on faith you could do.
Yes. Now you have to say, oh, I want to go play for Lincoln Riley because their offense is great. There were some big time offensive players, Chris, that were committed before the season started. And some of the teams they're on don't look so good, especially on that side of the ball. USC's offense, 3 out of 4 games looked really good. They continue that going. I mean, I don't know. That you want to attract pieces, you might be able to attract pieces that already decided to go elsewhere, because when it came down to Saturdays, those programs that had all the hype that USC had or similar, they've fallen off. And USC's kept it up there. They're still undefeated. They're number 6 in the country. Like to go from number four wins to number 6 in the country, it's a pretty big switch.
We're approaching flip season. We're approaching where USC can start being the one that gets the calls from recruits to be like, hey, I want to come play look, maybe I should have listened to you a little more when you first recruited me. So USC keeps winning. Those phones are going to keep the phones are going to ring as well.
They'll be buzzing. Let's go to another voicemail.
Hey, Ryan, it looks like our offense is going to have to run the ball a little more because they're dropping 8 and all kind of exotic coverages on Caleb Williams, and they're leaving some rushing yardage on the table. I couldn't believe after that the long run by Travis Dye, the first play, we didn't run anymore. And I think we got a field goal. And on defense, we were going against some future pro offensive linemen, weren't we, on Oregon State? These big, powerful linemen across the board. They were talking about how big and powerful they are. Man, we stopped them 150 yards. They usually get 250. They got over 300 on us last year. Yeah, it ain't the same team. Is it, Mr. Beaver? Curtis from Moreno Valley.
Are you Mr. Beaver?
No, I don't know who Mr. Beaver is, or if he's talking to the...
Well, I'm going to call you Mr. Beaver for the
Mr. Beaver?
Of this,
okay.
This show, I think.
I don't know who you're referring to. It's funny, like, if we ever talk about, like, that another team exists, they're like, oh, you're just backing that other team. Like, no, there's an opponent, and we have to tell you about them,
Whatever you say, Mr. Beaver. But I blanking on the first part. Oh, play calling. Yeah, Lincoln did mention that he felt like the play calling was an issue, and he put that on himself.
He did.
He put a lot of that on him and the offensive coaching staff, because this offense is his baby, Mr. Beaver, and he takes a lot of pride in it. And if something's not working, a lot of it's going to be on him. And credit for him for saying, it's on us as coaches. We didn't get them prepared enough. There was a lot of things that went wrong, but he said it starts with the coaching, and they need to get them right and get them ready for the next game.
Justin Bieber, is that what you're talking about, or no?
I'm saying
he's Canadian. We're not related.
Justice Beaver. No, I'm saying Beaver, not Bieber.
Oh,
so
Bieber. Okay.
Is that all the voicemails?
That's all the voicemails. We got some more emails and another text, if you're good with that.
Hit me with the text.
Okay, we got a text from Jordan in Costa Mesa. With Oregon State playing against Utah this week, who is the rooting interest for USC fans? I think we would prefer to face a one-loss Utah team, but also don't want our win over Oregon State to be discounted. Thanks for all you do, Jordan in Costa Mesa. I love when these kind of things come up you're worried about. I mean, honestly, to me, it doesn't matter at all. You just beat the people in front of you, and you're fine. Yeah.
But from a national perspective point, you probably want Utah to win.
Yeah, but even that doesn't matter. Like, I think if USC is good enough to make if their resume, it's not about I don't think it's going to come down to, well, what happened with Utah? It's more about what did USC do? So if USC went 11-1, and I don't even care who the loss is, and then they win the championship game, they're 12-1, Pac-12 champs. I don't think it matters if Utah beat Oregon State or not in week 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not saying in terms of the Pac-12 championship or resume. I'm just talking about I'm talking about college game day. Ryan.
Yeah, if you want college game day,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Let's let's be real, Mr. Beaver. I'm talking about them going 5-1 Utah, top 15. I believe they're 15 right now.
Yeah, 6-0 USC. They might be 12. They might. I think they're higher. Oh, maybe not.
They're top 15, whatever.
Yes.
So top 15, maybe a top 5 USC team, depending on what happens in the next 2 weeks. That's got college game day written all over it.
That could
and
definitely
it looks a lot sexier than a 4-2 Utah team, kind of at the bottom of the top 25 or out of the top 25.
Now, the one aspect of this, because there's no more divisions, technically, if you're worried that USC might not make the title game, this is less of outside the national perspective. This is like if USC goes like 7-2 in conference, which if that's the case, you're not making the playoffs, so it doesn't matter. You're just trying to qualify for the title game. There's scenarios where you could lose to Utah and then end up third. Like, you have the tiebreaker against Oregon State already. So in that scenario, you probably want Oregon State to win because you would have a tiebreaker against them where you might lose to Utah. You know, I don't know. It's one of those things.
I see what you're saying.
But that's more of a be in the top 2 in the Pac-12. I think the question was more focused on strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff. But I think the most important thing is like what Chris said. Like, you want it to be a big game versus Utah, game day, stuff like that. So probably root for Utah to win that one. We got one from Eric in Duck Country. It says, Ryan and Chris, I've got a restaurant analogy and a question. To go along with your visit to Portland, USC's defense is like a food cart. It's in a random parking lot, needs a new paint job. It has a, quote, B rating from the health inspector, and you're eating off of paper plates. But the food is phenomenal. But the food is phenomenal. While Georgia might be a Michelin star restaurant where everything is perfect, USC's defense is great where it counts. Turnovers, red zone defense, and scoring defense. He called USC's red zone defense number 3 in the nation. The food cart isn't perfect, but it's great where it counts. My question is, do you think watching this game gave opposing coaches hope, seeing that the offense can be slowed down, or do you think watching this game is discouraging, seeing how defenses can step up like that? Thanks, Eric in Duck Country.
I like that analogy.
It's pretty
Especially
good.
since we went to some food carts in Portland. Probably why he threw that out there.
Shout out to your girlfriend for telling us to do that.
Shout out to my girlfriend, Mr. Beaver. But I would say that the coaches are probably more discouraged because I think overall Lincoln's offense is going to score points regardless sometimes. There's just nights where it's going to be on fire. But when you stack that with the defense that played like it did against Oregon State, then it's like, oh, this is a way more complete team. This is a more problematic team for us.
Yes.
So seeing the defense get better, I think or seeing the defense grow and have a performance like that is the more discouraging as opposed to more encouraging, seeing the offense struggle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I got it. Mark wrote in, he says, just wondering if there's been any comment from the Pac-12 about Robinson's broadcast comment of, quote, damn it, when USC got a first down on Saturday. What happened to the commissioner's edict to treat USC and UCLA fairly, from Mark?
You thought that was real?
I missed that. Was that a real thing?
No, I just meant like.
Oh,
you thought
yeah.
they were gonna
The edict was real, yeah. That was he doth protest too much. Like no one was questioning how USC and UCLA would be treated. The Pac-12 brought that up themselves and brought it up multiple times, which is like more of a red flag than anything. Like, is that a question? Like, okay.
Maybe it wasn't like a damn it like that. Maybe it was a Beaver reference. What do you think, Mr. Beaver?
They didn't
like,
damn it. They didn't damn that.
They needed to damn that hole.
I got to listen. I didn't hear that one.
I saw someone mentioning that the broadcast seemed to be favorable towards Oregon State.
Yeah.
But it's Pac-12 Network. What do you want? What do you want?
I know.
No one was able to see it, so maybe he was like, F it, I'm going to do this drop.
We never got this one before, so we have to ask. Nick B says, hey, guys, what's up with Corey Foreman specifically?
Did he spell it right?
He spelled it right. Specifically, I thought I'd see him in the last drive as a pass rush specialist, but nope. Any insight? Keep up the good work, Nick. And it's funny, someone in the Harvey Hyde podcast, we had this whole debate about, well, not a debate, but someone said, like, why are people calling Lincoln Riley like Lincoln instead of Coach Riley?
Coach Riley, yeah.
And, you know, I told them, like, from the journalism world, that's just not what we do. You don't call, he's not my coach. You know, it sounds like you're a fan if you're calling him, hey, Coach Riley, you know, if you're coached by, you know, whatever. And, I talked to many media people, maybe get your thoughts on this too. And then Harvey Hyde was more of the, like, it's respectful to a coach. And I call Coach Harvey Hyde, I call him coach when we're doing the show. We're like, you know, he's my colleague, he's a coach, he's an analyst, that's kind of his job. So I do that. If I was on Pac-12 Network set and it was like Nick Aliotti or whatever was there, I'd say, you know, I'd probably do the same thing. But not when we're asking Lincoln Riley questions. He's not our coach, and that's just whatever. But someone complained on the Peristyle, like, complained about, you got to show respect. And then he wrote Corey, Cory Foreman. And so I was like, you know what, one way to show respect to somebody?
Is that still on there? I want to see that.
Spell their name correctly. Yeah, it's in the Peristyle Podcast Harvey Hyde thread, unless he edited it. But yes, I'm like, that's the way you can respect somebody, by spelling their name correctly. So long kind of tangent there. But if you want to do any thoughts on the calling someone coach and then Corey Foreman, go right ahead, Chris.
I call coaches, like, at the high school level that I know, I will call them coach. It's just a term.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, I don't feel like you need to call a coach, like, at the college level or interviewing coaches. Sometimes I do it, but I don't necessarily think it's wrong either way to do it. I feel like I just went against what you were saying, Mr.
No,
Beaver. I'm sorry.
That's not against what I'm saying. Like, if you feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. It's not like it's not disrespectful, I guess I would say, if you're calling them. When I hear it, and when you're asking questions, I don't hear you say that. There's other sites, like in our industry, that are more on the fan kind of side, I guess, that I hear them refer to as coach more, like, all the time. It's like coach. And I don't know, just it's a little cringeworthy for me sometimes if you overdo that.
That's fine.
But, yeah. But it's not disrespectful. We try to be as professional as possible. We're not showing any disrespect by not referring to a guy that's not coaching us as coach. It's different. And he made the analogy about a doctor, and there's a coach on Football Scoop, I think, that wrote about this, and he gave a flow chart that was like, does he coach you? No, don't call him coach. Then he said, does he coach your kids? If he does, you might want to call him coach. Otherwise, don't call him coach. You can call him whatever you want, his name.
I'm trying to. Do you want to take the Corey Foreman? Because I'm tired of talking about Corey Foreman.
He didn't play. This is all about what are you doing in practice. I think if he was performing at a high level in practice, you would have seen him on the field. You did not. So I get it. He's a former 5-star player, and everyone wants to see him. If he's worthy of getting on the field, I have no doubt that this coaching staff will get him on the field. We haven't been told he's not worthy of getting on the field, but that's what their MO is. So we're taking them at their word. Or this is like, they're not keeping off a Corey Foreman off the field. If there's something he's got to do, practice-wise, whatever, that's where I think we are right now. So sorry, we don't have a better update for you.
Now, Corey with a C Foreman, I can't tell you what's going on with him.
I'm not sure what's going on with that guy. Yeah. It's a little discouraging. And then we have one more from Alfred, and we'll do a couple chat questions too. He says, I'd love to hear how Jude Wolfe is progressing. Is he still on track to play later this year? And what's the stats with Damani Jackson? He ended up playing in that game. So,
Lincoln said Damani is healthy.
Okay.
Clear indication by him playing on Saturday, and he said he earned those opportunities that go in with that special package. So tells us he's playing well in practice. He's healthy, which is the most key part, as we talked about him multiple weeks ago about Lincoln Riley saying first things first, he needs to get healthy. So he's done that, performing in practice, getting time on the field. So he had a pick today against the scout team offense and another pass deflection.
Nice.
Almost another pick against Gary Bryant on a deep shot by the scout team offense. So starting to, make some plays. I think we're going to see more of him as the weeks go by. So look out for that. And what was the other one? Jude Wolfe.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know if I can really comment on injuries, but I will say Jude is progressing nicely.
Nice.
And I would say he is on track to return this season.
Nice. All right. They could use him at the tight end spot. I know we didn't really get into practice updates from this morning, but Cortland Ford, Lincoln Riley made a comment about that, right, being 100%. We thought we'd see him last week. He said he was real close, didn't end up
So
playing.
he was right on the edge.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, they would want to get him that extra week off just to get him right, going to some big games with Washington State and Utah, get him 100%. And if Bobby can take all the reps on Saturday, then that would be ideal. And that's what happening. Bobby came out healthy, and now they have 2 healthy tackles. He said Cortland's 100%. So offensive line, a little bit more healthy.
Yeah, that's good.
In a big way.
We'll do a couple chat questions. Bless 'em breaks. Love that we're winning, but we have yet to put together a game where both the offense and defenses are dominant. Other playoff caliber teams like Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State all have those. Yes, and USC is not that caliber of a team. So
Right. Well, they're not that caliber team.
Right.
But I think we'll see a more balanced game from them at some point where the offense is clicking, the defense is playing really, really well. But they're not there. They're not that caliber team. They're trying to get to that caliber team, but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
The question should just end at, I'm enjoying all the winning. That's what it ends with. Just end it there. Enjoy the wins.
Enjoy it. Tank Guy 27 says, first time I've got to catch the show live. Just wanted to thank you all for your work.
Wow.
Glad to have you around, Chris. And he says, Ryan, you look like you need some sleep, buddy. Nice.
Well, I look like I need. You look like Mr. Beaver. Usually it's me.
Usually I was up early for the gym. I picked up 2 airport trips today. I'm a little tired. Got a lot of stuff going on. I forgot to put the lights on even, so we would probably look a little bit better with the lights. But thank you that. Najee says LMAOO Ryan's food analogies are comedy. We appreciate that. We try to make them funny, but we want to be informative too. Andrew says, do you think USC should have run jet sweeps or get Jordan and Mario the ball? To get Jordan and Mario the ball, you have to find a way to get them the ball and make plays with their feet, in my opinion, since the passing game was off. Yeah, those guys needed to get the ball more somehow.
Short touches, short passes, whatever, just to get them going, get the confidence going, get the rhythm for Caleb Williams and those guys. I think they needed more of that.
And Ulau, the broadcast said that the Beavers had pumped fan noise in. How loud was it compared to USC? Should USC consider that? They're not pumping in noise during the play. It's like other stuff. So I think that it seems like a lot of people thought that, Chris. Like they can't simulate the crowd noise because half the stadium's gone, so we're going to pump crowd noise in. During the play, it's only what the crowd's doing.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Yeah. So
this isn't like, because they did that in 2020, right, with the fake crowd noise?
Yeah.
You were allowed to do that?
I think so. But I think maybe it had to stop at a certain point.
I don't remember. I liked that whole year.
It was very weird. Yeah, a weird year. But it was very loud in the little makeshift press boxes. I mean, the stadium was loud. So, Cameron, do you see this defensive performance as an anomaly or as a trend in the direction of a conference championship defense or playoff contender?
I wouldn't say playoff contender, but I think it is trending in the right direction because that's the kind of defense you need for a Pac-12 championship or a conference championship in general. You need a team or a defense that plays tough, holds offenses out, creates turnovers. And I mentioned this, it feels like we've seen little bits and parts of the defense in every week do the similar things, and they kind of putting it all together every week. And this was their most complete performance, their best performance of the season. So I don't think it's an anomaly. I think it's a reflection of what we've seen over 4 weeks, and that's growth.
Yes. All right. Well, we're right about the hour, so let's just wrap it up.
Good. I want to go take a nap, Mr. Beaver.
Since people are saying I'm tired. Sorry we didn't have the comments. Sorry we didn't have the lights on today. It's been
it's the wall, baby. Let's go. We're
in the wall.
We're getting there.
But this is fun. These are always fun. I love doing these live ones. I love the interaction. So thank you for.
That makes one of us.
200 people or something. I know Chris doesn't like it, but I like it's fun. I think we had like 200 people in the middle of Tuesday afternoon watching us record a podcast. They're basically just watching us record a podcast. So, but thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. For Chris Trevino, right over here, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you enjoyed the show. And we will talk to you next time.